Welcome to Roots and Roofs, where we explore the intersection of motherhood and entrepreneurship in the real estate world. I am your host, Mackenzie Shelton. Join us as we dive into the unique journey of balancing family life with owning a thriving real estate business. Each episode, we will uncover inspiring stories, practical tips, mindset conversations, and expert insights from others who are carving their paths in the real estate industry. Whether you are a seasoned realtor, a prospective buyer, or simply curious about the dynamics of managing both home and career, Roots and Roofs is your go-to podcast for heartfelt discussions and invaluable advice. Tune in and discover how these incredible women are building deep roots from the ground up while nurturing their families under the same roof. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Roots and Roofs. I have a super awesome, exciting guest with me today, Jamie Flanagan. We have known each other for probably like 10 years now, right?
Yeah. I mean, Keller Williams days, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Because you're still at Keller Williams.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. It's been a while for me.
Yeah. So yeah, it's been a while. Jamie, why don't you just tell our audience a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get into the questions.
Yeah. So I am also a local real estate agent in the Omaha metro market and kind of expanded my business out to Colorado as well as Arizona over the last couple of years. But we started building a real estate portfolio on accident with one of our primary residents, converted that to a rental, and then the obsession kind of kicked in and we started buying more properties and just kind of became the problem solver in between. So it wasn't like we were out seeking to purchase properties. It was more like if a client had a home sale contingency and us buying it would remove that. So it was really a little different than a lot of investors. My husband's a lender, so a lot of times it was like, okay, this help, we can buy their house, they can move and close on the next property, and it's a win for everybody. So that's kind of how our journey began. And then we scaled and we've got about probably around 80 doors is kind of where we've been sitting, and a mix between apartments, single family homes, and a little bit of commercial.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, so I'm sure with that introduction, some of our questions are going to be around investing. So I'm sure that our listeners will be excited for that. So what inspired you to get into the real estate industry and eventually become the entrepreneur and investor that you are today?
Yeah, I was pregnant with my daughter, and my dad had always jokingly said you'd be a good real estate agent. And so I actually we were so broke. We had literally no money. So basically I called my dad. I was like, all right, I'm ready to do this real estate thing. He mentioned he'd pay for my license. So I called him and he lent me the money to get my real estate license. And I took the classes. I was like, I cannot fail this test because, we all have this need to please our parents. And
yes.
So I was like, I got to pass. So I started, I took the class, the prep course or whatever, where they do basically give you the questions with different names. It's like Bill instead of Bob. So got my real estate license. I went to class 1 while I was pregnant. I had my daughter on the 1 week break. And then I went to class 2 when she was a newborn, and Brad would actually come to the real estate class because I did them in person, and I'd breastfeed my daughter, and we just made it work. So I work-life balance at its finest.
Absolutely. You know what? You've never told me that story. That is so cool. You know what? Moms just get it done, don't we? We just make it work.
Yes, we do.
So
yeah.
So kind of expand a little bit on how did things kind of progress from there as far as your career?
Yeah. So then, long story short, I got my license. I worked with an investor right out of the gate. I went to Keller Williams Bold class, which I think it was Bold. Actually, it was Floyd Wickman, but learned how to get on the phones and just dial for dollars. So I called an investor actually, and she was like, yeah, I'll meet with you. And so one of the things that was really great is I knew how to get business. I had no idea what documents to get signed. I was on my way to the appointment. I'm like, oh my God, what do I didn't even know listing agreement. I just was so excited I had a client. And that's kind of been my journey my entire life. Like to this day, I'll like venture into something new and I'm like, I have something that I'm really excited about, but I still don't know like the documentation process, but I know that somebody will help me figure it out. So I just, yeah, so worked with her and learned a lot of lessons in that with that very first client. My very first closing, we closed, and I think the next day the buyers went to move in and the copper had all been stolen from the house. So like crazy things, like I just learned a lot in those very first few transactions. And I think those are also the most important transactions because honestly, if they weren't as hard as they were, I wouldn't have learned as much as quickly. So even though it was a total struggle and I felt like I was constantly failing forward, at that time I felt like I was just failing because I'm like, you get a call after closing and you're like, oh my God, this is wrong and this is wrong. But now looking back, like that would still happen to me even as a seasoned, like things happen in real estate. You just know how to handle them better as you do have more transactions and more everything, more experience under your belt. And then Brad and I actually, we weren't doing well. We were like new parents. We ended up getting a divorce. And so I bought my townhouse. We got back together. We've married ever since now. But I had this townhouse. So when we moved back in together, we ended up renting that. So we became accidental landlords. He makes a joke that he always wanted to be able to say like he's a real estate investor and it only takes one property to be a real estate investor. So we had that, sorry, we had that property and we rented it out. It was we still own it today. It's been a great rental property. Actually, the people who rent it, a couple of them have bought houses with me. That's like the move up buyer that lives there. They're like, they move out. It's a 2-car garage, 2-bed, 2-bath. They almost always have a baby or get engaged and then they buy a house. So it's been a great property. So I always talk about like multiple opportunities from something you would never expect. And that's one of those.
Yes, that's so awesome.
Yeah, it's been a fun. Yeah. And then my grandpa ended up passing away. And honestly, that was like one of the first like properties that I'll like full disclosure, my dad and his brothers were kind of like fighting over what to do with this property. And I was like, why don't I just buy it? And honestly, I was looking for the easy button. I'm like navigating this estate sale with my dad and his brothers who were out of state. Like I was trying to simplify things for everybody. And that's something I've done my entire career is like, I'm really looking to help people ease the stress. And so we kind of fought, like, then it was like my dad's brothers were like, well, that's not fair that she gets the equity then. And so we would go back and forth and they finally were like, oh my gosh, like there's actually not that much equity. Like I wasn't trying to like lowball or anything like that. It was just like, there wasn't a lot of equity there anyways.
Sure.
So I ended up buying that property. We turned it into a rental. That one's been it was a lot of experience. We had several tenants that just didn't really work out so well, even though they pencil out on paper and, we do the same application process for everybody. And so that's one of the only rental properties that we've actually sold. So after about 4 tenants and pretty much all of them having some sort of crazy nightmare story, we were like, you know what? I think my grandpa has decided that we are not allowed to rent this house out. And I think he was influencing the property. I am not a huge believer in ghosts, but that one I do believe like he did not want people there. Come to find out, my dad actually told me later, he's like, just so you know, it's actually grandma that haunts the house, not grandpa. I'm like, you
Oh.
literally could have told me this. But sold the property. It's now not, and I'm sure somebody like the family's enjoying it because I think he just wanted, a good family to be there for her.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's so crazy. You're absolutely right about kind of it just takes one property to end up being an investor. That's exactly what happened to Jack and I.
Yeah.
I was actually trying to sell a house for a client, and very long story short, she wasn't doing very well in an assisted living facility,
Mm,
and the son was concerned that it was, not going to get sold before she passed away, and that was going to really complicate things and stuff like that. And so he was like, "Why don't you just buy this?" And I was
yeah.
like, I don't, at the time we were kind of just getting past the point of being broke. And so I was like, I don't think we're in a position to be able to buy this. And he actually gave us a discount just because he kind of wanted to, be able to be done with it. And so
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It
That's
is.
amazing. I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah. We bought our first rental property for $5,000. So yeah.
Okay, so I did an interview on my podcast yesterday with Malia Gomez. They bought their first property for like, I don't know if it's their first property, but $8,000. I'm like, okay,
That's
I haven't bought anything that cheap. So
yeah. Well, it's in a very small town in Southwest Iowa. Like the property values aren't crazy over there,
yeah,
but yeah, that
so wild
property,
to me. Like, how do you go wrong?
right? Well, and what we're getting for rent and what we've been getting for rent the whole 6 years now that we've owned it, we're getting like 650 a month in rent for a property that we bought for
Yeah,
five
so you're
thousand
paying it
dollars.
off every year, over and
Yep.
over and over again.
Over and over and over. Yep. So it's great.
Oh,
Um,
I love that.
yeah, absolutely. So, you kind of mentioned what your investment portfolio currently looks like. You said you have, about 80-ish properties between single family and apartments and stuff like that. Is there
Yes.
anything that you kind of want to expand on some of that? Like what makes you decide maybe that something is the right deal for you guys versus maybe something that is not? Because I feel like when people think about somebody who has 80 properties, uh, you would think that they would all be the same, but I feel like you guys have been able to diversify really well.
Yeah, so we've always bought properties that suit a need. So like in the beginning, like I said, it was like we were kind of problem solving for people who either wanted to remove the contingency. One of the first ones I actually bought from like an actual client, they were moving out of state. We got an offer on the property, it was FHA, and then we got a laundry list of repairs. Well, I had already had connections with like the HVAC guy, and as I was talking to the sellers about it, it's like, well, it would only cost this to get the HVAC looked at. It would only cost this. And as we were looking at it, the buyers wanted like a $15,000 credit. And really the work was like maybe like the work that was immediate, there was none. Like nothing
Sure.
was a pressing issue. And so I kind of thought to myself, like, well, what if I just remove my commission and I bought the house from them and then I can deal and add a little bit of a discount so I can deal with the issues and I know that the house is fine ultimately. So I ended up offering them, I think we had it listed for like 165. I think the offer was 165 but then again, we had issues after issues and then we were worried, not worried, but they were like, well, then we have to do the appraisal next. And so I said, well, what if I think I bought it for 140.
Oh, yeah.
House is worth like 295 today. And they were so happy about it. And it was in that moment that I realized, like, you know what? It was the easy button for them. We got a deal because we were willing to create that convenience. And it just kind of it became a part of my process. So when I'd have, a new construction buyer, so that's how we built our single family portfolio. And then obviously like multifamily is something that after I think really getting into like the bigger multifamily, not bigger, for me it was bigger, but the first building we bought was 10 doors and it needed a complete remodel, which was way outside of our comfort zone. We did it all wrong. We had business partners that didn't go well, like lots of messy stuff, but we learned, again, going back to that, like investors, like we learned so much with that building that then when we bought our next building, we were even more well prepared. Still learned a lot in the second building. And so now we have 3 apartment buildings total, but like we've learned so many things out of that. Now, if you would have done an interview with me 2 years ago, I would have said I would never encourage anyone to buy multifamily because I hate it. I hated it. I hated like the amount of drama and all of the things that we had to deal with. It was hard.
Yeah.
Now that we're stabilized and now I understand when investors say there's a stabilization period, now that we're stabilized with the 3 buildings, I would say they're single family and multifamily are completely different. And but now there's a place for both. I love our single family homes. We have very little turnover. Like I don't even like honestly, we never have people move out. I think we almost I'm willing to say 90% of our tenants that were placed when we bought the property are still in the property. So that
Wow.
is like amazing with the single family homes. Multifamily, there's a lot more turnover. It's a place that people plan. You don't plan to stay in an apartment forever. So like that's, just there's a different a learning curve there. Like, okay, we know that we're going to be turning over if we have more evictions. I don't know that I've had maybe one eviction in all of our single family homes, and I've probably had one a year in just one of our buildings. Our other two buildings, we've never had an eviction. So like, that's good. I think, maybe, but like the one building is, we just now budget for it. We do we know that there's always going to be about one eviction per year, and it's part of our pro forma now. So those are just things we learned, but then we've done updates to the building. So now it's like stabilized and we're not seeing the turnover that we had before. And it's learning. And so now I would say, like, if I could have 3 more buildings like how ours are performing today, I would absolutely do that. But it took a lot of work to get them to where they are.
Sure,
And then we own
absolutely.
vacation rentals, and that came from our desire to ski. And we were spending like $5,000 a week to rent like a 3-bedroom condo. And we just started like, really, okay, what if we bought a property out here? I put myself on I got on Zillow or whatever, because I didn't have my license in Colorado yet. And then I had us on a search for like a 3-bed, and they're always over $1 million. And one hit my inbox at $799. And I'm like, gosh, we didn't know how we were going to make that work. Like a jumbo loan vacation property. Like, we're used to buying $100,000 to $200,000 properties in Nebraska. And so for us, that was what are we going to do? How is this going to work? But we're like, it's a good deal. Like, we're going to figure it out. Luckily, like, we qualified for a vacation rental. And then at the time, like, I don't know how we put the money down or whatever, but we figured out how to put 10 or 20% down. And I'm sure we leveraged some things in our portfolio, but we made it work, and we've got a great interest rate on that property. So now our payment, is like $2,600, but we get great income on that. So again, like, diversifying, but having a need, there was a reason. It wasn't just us jumping on every opportunity that was brought to us. It was like we were seeking out something that made sense for us.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, so I know we've talked a little bit about vacation rentals and stuff
Yes.
like that. Our experience has not been great, but it kind of goes back to, like, it's been a learning lesson for us. Boy, have I learned a ton of things. And because our home was hit by Hurricane Ian shortly after we bought it, I actually learned a bunch of things about, major disaster insurance related stuff that then, like this last year, when I personally knew 6 people who lost their homes in the tornadoes that came through, Omaha and Southwest
Oh my
Iowa.
gosh.
Yeah, like, some of that stuff I was able to translate over to, helping them kind of navigate some of that, right? So I don't ever look at it like, oh, it was a total failure. And,
Right.
I don't know if we're debating whether we're going to try and sell it or not. And I don't know if we'll necessarily keep it long term, but at least we've learned some things, and, we can go take those lessons onto everything else that we want to do. So yeah, absolutely.
Oh, totally. And that's like the big thing with vacation rental too, is like, how much, like, are you buying it to mostly rent it out, or how often are you going to utilize it? And like, weighing out those factors and making a pros and cons list. Cause it's like, honestly, like, Colorado is like the fires, and you've got, every market has its like things. It's, do I
Mhm.
want, is that thing, if that happens to me, am I going to be able to deal with it and handle it if it happens? And who will be in my corner?
Yes, yes, absolutely. Yeah, and it's funny with ours, like, we bought it with the intention of being able to go down there a lot and stuff, and obviously we've gone down there and visited, but we then 2 years, or not even 2 years, like a year later, bought our farm. And so, a farm doesn't really lend you to be able to travel as much as you used
Oh,
to.
no.
So it's one of those
It's
things where
hands
it's
on.
like, yeah, yeah. So it's one of those things where, like, Jack had to kind of, like, put it into perspective for me, like, hey, our life has shifted a little bit. We made some decisions. And so maybe this is, like, not the right time for us to own something like this, So, but it's
Totally.
doing
Yeah.
fine. It's the spring down there right now. And so, of course, everybody wants to go to Florida. So they're there right
Yes,
now.
exactly. So right now you
Um,
want to keep it. And then
yes, I know that's the thing. It's like, I may decide that we're not going to sell it. So who knows?
right. Yeah, when it's
Um,
performing.
so I know you mentioned to me, if you're willing to elaborate on this a little bit, it sounds like you are potentially pursuing a project or something in a different state. Can you elaborate on that at all?
So we, yeah, several actually. We're always looking at like opportunities. And one of like my favorite things about the Omaha market was when we bought and how much it grew. And like, that's been a huge thing for my real estate business, for our investment portfolio. And so recently we were introduced to like Southern Utah. I'm here right now. I'm in Southern Utah. But we fell in love. Like at first I said absolutely not, because one of my things with vacation rentals is, can you get there in one flight, or can you get there effectively if there were an emergency? And so I immediately checked, like it didn't meet the boxes. So I was like, nope. But we got actually the girl who brought us out here, thank goodness, Megan Walker, and her husband Gavin, they convinced us like, hey, come out and have this couples retreat out here. It's beautiful and the house is on us. And so we came and we stayed at this amazing house in Hurricane, Utah. And the guy who's developing it, Chris, it's like gonna have a water park, it's gonna have a lazy river, a concert venue, like weird thing, but like I had this vision, I drew it in my notebook back in February of last year. And as he was describing his vision, it was exactly what was in my notebook, basically. It was like, we're surrounded by mountains. I'm like, this is so wild. And so I like really had to like think, okay, is it like, this is like God, right? We were brought here for a reason. We've met these amazing people. So I've been spending more and more time here, and we've been looking, I'm going to go look at 2 properties today, but just really doing my research, evaluating how much rentals are going for, evaluating booked a different Airbnb this time, like what's great about this Airbnb location, everything. And so I'm in the process of getting my Utah license right now. And I'm like really excited because one of the things I really like about this market is the weather. You don't have catastrophic weather, and it's cooler than Arizona. So, you get so hot in Arizona, where here it still gets really hot in the summers, but it's not 120 degrees. It's like 105 degrees. And so they kind of have a year round, it's right outside of Zion. So you have access to Zion. You've got like all these really cool, amazing outdoor nature-esque hikes and stuff. So that's what we're exploring right now. And like, I'm sorry, but market research in the mountains and doing hikes and stuff is totally my jam.
Right. And it's a business write-off, right?
It's a business write-off.
That is so awesome. So let's kind of dive in. Obviously, you're a mom. So let's kind of dive into just a couple questions that are more related to the motherhood side of things.
Yeah.
So how do you balance the demands of being a mom while managing all of the businesses that you do and pursuing investments and things like that?
I have amazing support. So I've hired you. Like, how crazy is it that we work together, like on the team?
Yes.
And, like going back, and like, I've always had really, really awesome support. And I say, like, leverage those relationships around you. And when I say support, like, I even like friendships, like,
Yes.
some of my best friends are like, when I'm traveling a lot, like Kristen, she'll like come over for dinner, and it's like, you have these supportive people in your life, and surround yourself with those who understand your life, because if people are going to bring you down there, you should not surround yourselves with them, right? Like, and there are people who don't want to go where you're going, but will support your journey. And those are the people that you need to surround yourself with. And so like at VA, I've been talking a lot on Facebook recently about my VA company, and I hired a VA like full-time about 4 years ago, and it completely changed my business. And here's why. When I get a school function, so I met like even my family life, when I get a school notification of something I need to be a part of, my VA actually will ask me, is this something that's important to you? Do you want me to add it to your calendar? And so like, even having my VA, like, even look at my emails and help me with school scheduling. I mean, she'll help me with ordering groceries. Like, so she's helping me in my business. She's helping me with transaction coordinating. When we got all of the Douglas County assessor, we got new taxes, right? Our taxes all went down. Woohoo! I emailed her. I said, hey, I have this spreadsheet. I need you to go in and update all these properties. So I emailed her at 7 p.m. at night. I woke up the next day, it was done. I could quickly evaluate, because we were thinking about selling a big part of our portfolio. Well, that tax reduction made an impact. Like, now do we keep them? Because now our cash flow is different and like things are just different when stuff like that happens. So she was able to do that overnight. I was able to evaluate, a multi-million-dollar portfolio better because what she did overnight. So, I mean, when I say like she gave me like my freaking life back, like I really genuinely, like, I get emotional about it. Like, it's powerful stuff when, I mean, even I haven't even leveraged it to the full capacity, but she like just she understands my schedule. She helps me book stuff. She helps me make sure that I'm at the functions I'm supposed to be at. So really leveraging other people is a huge thing that are going to support you and help you grow both in your vision and your values as well as your business.
So has this VA been with you the whole 4 years then? Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Wow, that's
Same
incredible.
VA.
Yeah.
Yep. She's amazing. And I had another VA. I used to have a marketing, in-person marketing director, Sierra. And then I had a VA overseas that did our social media, but she was really the person communicating with that VA. So he didn't work out after I lost her. She got offered like double the salary somewhere else, and I just couldn't compete. So when I lost her, I ended up having to let him go, which was really hard. But now we're getting back into, I have a great social media VA again. And so rebuilding that side of the business, the marketing side that I've been a little bit quiet about the last like year and a half.
Yeah, that is awesome. That's great. And okay, so I'm really curious about this for myself because this is one of the things where between Jack and I, we have, a running list of all these things that we need to do inside of our businesses, outside of our businesses, personal, all of these
Yes.
things. So like you said, they can even help with like the day-to-day sort of things. Okay.
Yeah. So the nice thing about the company that I partnered with, you're hiring support for your business.
Mhm.
I think where there's a disconnect is when you hire a VA who's also working for three other people, because it's like you're not getting they're having to task shift and they're also having to shift in businesses. My VA is full time to me, and so I'm able to email her in the morning. So I basically, and like I'm at the point of like log into my Facebook, grab my clients' birthdays, make sure that I'm aware of like these A-list people I need to know that if they're having a birthday today. She'll send like settlement statements to my past clients. They know it's coming from my VA. So it's
Yeah,
not like I think that's also is like, oh, are they going to sound like me? They're not supposed to sound like you.
sure, sure.
They're
Yeah.
supposed to sound like them. And, they're in the Philippines. So like what I
Wait, do you
really,
use the cyberbacker?
what's that mean? Like a VPN?
It's a company. It's called Cyberbacker. So, okay, different. It must be a
Different
different
company.
company. They're out of the Philippines as well. So that's why
Oh
I
yeah.
asked.
Nope. So I'm partnered with Sphere Rocket.
Spear Rocket. Okay.
Yeah. And what I really like about Sphere Rocket is they're hiring the top, I can't remember the exact percentage, but it's like the top 10 or 1% of English speaking and English writing um, in the country. Their skill set is phenomenal. Like they either have past executive admin experience. Brad just hired one. Oh my gosh. She went through his entire Google Drive, organized the whole thing, went through his email, organized it, and then created a spreadsheet to let him know what she unsubscribed from and why. Like the spreadsheet's insane. And I'm like, so when people are like, how can they help me? It's really like a lot of these people, if you just let them go and get in your
Yeah.
stuff, you're going to be so impressed by the output that you get. And now it's like, for example, we're working on our taxes for 2023. Yes, 23. So I've had to like reach out to banks and get the interest statements, and they'll send me 24 because they don't think I'm actually asking for 23. But then she can go in and respond and go, no, Jamie meant 2023. And she's following up on like getting the documents. And then we needed our settlement statements from when we bought and sold houses. She just knows to check my email. And if she sees a request like that, she's just handling it.
Gosh, that's so I could hire someone like that to help me with
Yes.
my 46,000 unread emails.
She went through my old email. It was like 100,000, and she went through and cleaned it up. It probably took her a week, but it was so nice.
Oh
I
my
just like, I
gosh.
need to get contacts out of here. If there's ever a purchase agreement attached to the email, I want them to make sure that they're in my database. Yes. So CRM cleanup, email cleanup, Google Drive, create spreadsheets, organize the Google Drives. Like now my computer matches my, like
I had to do my computer, obviously. Well, I guess you could do like you could have her log in on a team, like where they can log into your desktop.
Yeah.
It'll organize mine for me. But then I read Build a Second Brain. And so every single thing is the same. It's organized the same way on my Google Drive, in my box.com account, on my desktop. It's all the same.
Wow, that's incredible. So our team uses a VA transaction coordinator for,
Okay.
for our team. So I have a
Yeah.
director of operations, and then under her is this VA that's located in the Philippines. And we've used her now for almost a year, and we've been extremely happy, with it did take a little bit to
Totally.
get them trained up, and stuff like that. But now we're like such a well-oiled machine, and and like my agents love her. And so I have been considering doing something like this for myself. So maybe
I'd love to help you.
Yeah. Awesome.
Shameless plug. I will help you get a VA.
Awesome. Okay, so I know we're kind of winding down on time here, but I did want to at least get to ask you one more question. So what advice would you give to mothers who are aspiring to either start their own business or invest in real estate, but maybe feel either overwhelmed by the idea or just kind of don't know where to start?
I would say set healthy boundaries. So like most people, like a lot of moms have to work from home. And so creating like an office space where you create a healthy boundary that the kids know that when mommy's here, she's like making money toward Disney or doing something fun that's going to help our family. It's something that I didn't do well, but I've seen other people like actually implement it very, very well. And now my kids are older, so we have, they kind of do their own thing now. I have to now I'm trying to get into their room and like spend time with them, interrupt Fortnite. But really like setting that boundary so that and even for themselves, like when mommy's in this space, it's because I'm on a call, and even though I'm not leaving to go to work, I can't help you make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Like we need to set boundaries and have support. Like if there is, if you do need, let's say from 9 to 12, that you're going to set those as income producing hours, have somebody come over even to the house and help you for those 3 hours so that you're not interrupted. You can get pretty affordable help, and we know that distractions are the killer of production. And so if you can have a distraction-free workspace for 3 hours, even it's going to be a game changer. I'm sure that
yeah.
more than anyone.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I actually did a podcast in the past where it was just me kind of giving some advice to moms. And one of the things that I said was, establish a very strict schedule and make sure that you kind of adhere to like when are my real working hours.
Totally.
Actually, when my 7-year-old was a baby. So actually, it was probably about the time that you and I were working together. A lot of my like working hours were when Jack got off of work, and we kind of established this where I would go up to our room and he would kind of take care of the 3 kids, and I would get everything done that I feel like normal people get done in like,
Totally.
an 8-hour shift in like 2 hours, because I just knew that that was the only time I had to get it done. So yeah, absolutely.
It's amazing how productive we can be if we just set our mind to I just did the Tom Berry Summit, and that was he's like, if you could have 4 to 5 hours every day of where you're productive for those 4 to 5 hours, what would that do to your business? And it's like, wow, truly, it's amazing what you can get done in 4 to 5 hours.
Yes, absolutely. I love that. Well, Jamie, thank you so much for coming
you.
on here and pouring all of your wisdom into us. And I am so excited to hear whatever you guys decide to do in Utah. Jack has always wanted to visit there, so maybe we'll
come down this weekend. We got an extra 3 bedrooms.
Yes, well, I gotta find somebody to watch my animals, but
okay.
all my cute cows. But no, seriously, maybe we'll have to make a trip and check it out. So
100%.
All right, thank you so much.
Okay, thanks, Mackenzie.
thank you so much for listening to Roots and Roofs podcast today. If you loved today's episode, please let me know. I love hearing from you on Instagram and Facebook, so feel free to send me a DM or tag me in your stories so I can share it too. If you're looking for more information about today's topic, please visit my website, mahoganyacres.com, and all of the information that is listed in the show notes below. Until next time.